Okay, today we're looking at a Marconi TF1101. It's an audio or medium frequency oscillator, sine wave only, up to I think it's 200 kilohertz. These are 1960s vintage. They're all tube. There's 10 tubes in these beasts. I've actually got several of these, which I am in the process of going through and restoring. The aim being in the future, they will be part of an electronic music installation. Quite a long way to go before we get anywhere near that, though. Anyway, I picked this latest example up online. They go for about, I don't know, 50 to 70 pounds, which, considering what they've got in them, is pretty cheap, I think, for these sorts of instruments. There's very little information online about them. There's a few block diagrams. There's certainly no schematics. There's certainly no calibration information out there. So they're of limited value, really, in a kind of a test bench situation. However, the sine waves on them are very nice, very pure, as you'd expect. This latest one came to me, and before I do anything with these, I always open them up and have a look inside, and it's probably a good job I did, because this one was absolutely thick with dust inside and dirt. I suspect it's been stored in a shed or a garage or a loft for many decades, so I've already done some gross cleaning of it and get most of the dust and the filth out of it, to get it into a state where it can even come in the house and we can start looking at what needs doing. Of all the ones I've seen, and I think this is the 4th or 5th one now, none of them have had any modifications. They are still, all the ones I've seen are still pretty much all original. There's a lot of capacitors in here, all of which are 50, 60 years old now. So first order of business really is to do some additional cleaning inside, and then we've got to basically recap certainly all the electrolytics, do a lot of testing of some of the other components for drifted resistors, cleaning pots, that kind of thing, before I even consider plugging this in and seeing if there's any other problems with it. So what I'll do now is I'll put the camera into a different angle so you can have a good look inside, see what's what and what the order of business is, and then from that we'll make a plan and attack it over the next few weeks, I suspect. Okay, so we're looking into one side of the machine now. I've removed all of the vacuum tubes, just so none of them really get dinked or damaged. We'll do an episode on the vacuum tubes. They all look okay apart from one exception, which we'll talk about in a future episode. So this side then, what have we got to do? We've got the main smoothing caps, filter caps here. As with all vacuum tube gear, there's some very high voltages floating around inside one of these things. So if you don't know what you're doing, then steer well clear. Also, if you're following what I'm doing, then you're doing so absolutely at your own risk, because I am not a qualified technician. This is a hobby to me. I'm happy with the way I do things, but that does not mean to say that they are right or necessarily the safest way of doing things. Anyway, so we're going to replace all of these. There's some lower value but high voltage capacitors underneath here as well, 3 or 4 of those, another one up here. There's a lot of these rotary switches which are very common in the equipment of the day. All of these are going to need to be cleaned. As with power on switch, that's quite often something that needs a bit of attention on these. And then all of these resistors, these are all old carbon resistors. They're all going to need to be measured, especially if it's had any sort of damp, and I've got reason to believe it has, which I'll show you in a minute. where it has been stored in an area where there was damp. These can take on moisture, they can drift, they can go short, they can go open. So all of the resistors will need to be checked to make sure they're at least somewhere where they should be. Before I do any of that on this side, there's quite a bit more cleaning I need to do around the tube sockets, around some of these standoffs and these resistors, just so I can really see what I'm doing. Things that are important, obviously the transformer, we'll do a check on that. These resistors are around, in this case this is the output range, so the output voltage selector. All of these resistors are precision resistors. So, if you've got any of these broken, it can be quite expensive to replace them. Yeah, so I think there's a couple of pots in here as well, which you access from the other side. Quite often these need to be removed, opened and cleaned. Okay, let's spin it around and see what we've got on the other side. Okay, on this side then, I've already removed the shield. This is the tuning section, so it's a big metal shield that surrounds this entire area. And this is why I think that it was at some point stored in a reasonably damp environment, because this is the top of the shield, and you can see just how much corrosion there is on that. That's even after a clean. So this is all going to have to be reconditioned before it gets put on. That being said, I didn't notice any sort of direct water ingress, so hopefully it's just a little bit of humidity, but it kind of does add to the need to check everything thoroughly. There's another 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 tubes on this side, 3 on the other. There are more caps, 1, 2, 3, 4 caps here that will need to be swapped out, as well as a bunch more resistors. There's also some silver micas in here that we'll check that they should be okay. More precision resistors here. This is on the frequency selector, and these are the tuning capacitors. And there are some more smaller tuning capacitors underneath, which are the calibration points. Another common thing that's wrong with these is this is the level set pot. This quite often is dirty, needs cleaning. We'll check obviously the bowl, the meter. If the meter's gone, then that is a bit of a problem to try and source another one. Pretty much unobtainium, I thought. But all of this again needs a good clean, needs checking, replacing what needs to be replaced. Now there's one other problem with this that we'll get to at some stage, which is that the actual dial, where how you set the frequency for the range you're in, is frozen. Now that dial operates through a series of transfer rollers onto the shaft here of the tuning capacitor, and there are 2 bearings, one at the front and one tucked in at the back here. And what happens is that any grease or lubrication that was on them, if they haven't been used for donkey's years, that dries out. So lots of penetrating oil in on those 2 areas there, and also on the little roller gears. And we'll just see whether or not we can get that to spin freely. But I'll show you that when we get to it. There's also a bit of a trick with how you actually do the tension on that, so you get good tension, so it spins easily, but doesn't bind. Okay, well, I think that's probably enough for now. So first order of the day, I think, is that I'm going to give this a really good clean. I'm then going to start recapping the unit, check the pots, check the resistors, and then once we've done all of that, we'll have a look at what else needs to be done. Oh, the dial, obviously. Oh, just before I forget, there is one other cap that's hidden underneath in here. which is part of the output. So that one's an easy one to miss and quite a tricky one to actually get at. So yeah, I'll bring you back, or we'll do another video once I make a bit of progress on this. But first order of the day really is to give it a thorough clean.